Is there a world where like either some insiders at Twitter are like hacking accounts or whatever? Like maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It turns out that wasn't the explanation. It was just bribes.
Before kind of getting to where we're going and some thoughts there, how much of this situation do you think is a Solana culture problem from the top down?
What happens in a permissionless environment where anyone can turn up and do something? What happens is people go, oh, there's money here. I can take it.
Welcome back to the Rollup, your home for technical talks and open conversations that shape the modular future. Nothing on today's show is to be construed as financial advice. You can see our full disclosures list at therollup.co/ventures. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode after a quick word from some of our awesome partners.
Redstone is DeFi's modular oracle, supporting over 100 clients on over 50 chains and offering 1,000 assets. Redstone is the leader for Bitcoin staking and yield-bearing assets. They offer the most robust, customizable price feeds available in any model. Join the Redstone exhibition today.
All right, Ken, we're here in Hong Kong. It's been a good week so far.
Yeah. It's been a pretty good conference so far.
Way different than conferences in the West. This is like one of the first big Asia conferences. We're trying to expand our brand, expand kind of the networking, kind of get a feel for what's happening over here. It feels just in a way more speculative, in a way more like community, consumer oriented, and also just a ton of different ideas and projects here that you don't really hear about on the Western world side.
Definitely, like, crypto is bubbles within bubbles, right? And this is a different bubble, than you see at a place like ETH Denver or even ECC, right? So yeah, for me, when I heard Consensus was going to be in Hong Kong, I was like, all right, it's been a few years since I've been here pre-COVID, so yeah, very excited to get back. I've met a bunch of people, bunch of projects. It's been really cool.
Yeah. Well, I brought you today as the spokesperson of many hats you wear: DeFi, Ethereum, multi-chain, UX, builder orientation, founder, and there's a lot going on in the space right now. We kind of went through the whole high FTV, low flow, hate of VCs, all the way to the other side of the pendulum towards now the entire industry knows how absolutely insider meme coins were when people pitched them as the purification of the problem space of the VC meta. We've got Portnoy saying that he's not going to launching coins and then dumping publicly on his wallets. We've got Libra and Malay coin. We've got Kelsier sending his sister money, getting into their politics via bribes, which Vitalik somehow called out in a blog post a couple months ago, saying that political coins are very ripe for braggery, and I'm seeing him be kind of vindicated there. We've got the Ethereum ecosystem, the Ethereum Foundation. Amin is a prominent guy, absolutely going ham on the wokeism aspects of some of the Ethereum stuff. Solana's getting outed now as kind of this crime-fied chain, FTX first, now this. There's a lot going on.
It's been a week. It's been quite a year. Yeah, exactly.
All of that happening while everything outside of Bitcoin is nuking.
Yeah.
Nuking hard. Like everybody's down.
Yeah.
On any position, basically. Yeah. Especially on-chain only. So maybe just bird's eye view from your perspective. You've been in the space for a while. What's your take on all of this? Why is this happening? What's the rhyme and reason? How can we explain this?
I think what for me is very interesting is the last like 3 to 6 months has been the continuation of the decoupling of everything right within crypto. It used to be that everything was correlated. Bitcoin would go up, maybe Bitcoin dominance goes up a little bit, and then people rotate out of Bitcoin into other stuff. That wealth effect flows down. We're just not seeing that anymore. And it's been a while. I think, we had DeFi summer, which front ran the last bull market, right? It was 2020, all the DeFi coins went up. They all peaked in Feb 2021. They were down only from there, but the rest of the market, alt L1s, everything, ripped, including NFTs. So you got these cycles within cycles now. I think there is still a macro cycle that is playing out, and I think the macro cycle is still bullish because Bitcoin is the determinant of whether we're in a bull market or not. And if you look at Bitcoin, we're in a bull market. So then you go, okay, we're still in a bull market, macro-wise, macro-reto. What the fuck is going on? Why is my still away play? And I think the answer to that is that, the response to the VC low flow games, right, was check out, opt out, right?
Yeah.
I can't win this game.
Yeah.
People were waiting for all these projects to launch. All of the price discovery was happening in private, and you get your face ripped off enough times, and you're like, I'm going to opt out of this. This is not a game that I can win. Okay. And it doesn't matter. And the irony is, it doesn't matter whether you like the project. There are many people who are, influencers, educators, whatever. Even Sasano, who he's like, I love Athena, but I can't recommend you buy it at a $20 billion FDV, right? Not that it can't grow into a $20 billion or $50 or $100 billion, project, but today where it stands, that's a very high risk play.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, if this were the ICO meta and it weren't, these low float games, and guy hates this because he's like, it wasn't that low of a float, and it's like, I get it, but it's still different to ICO meta.
Yeah.
Where 30, 40, 50, 70% of the tokens, sometimes 90% would be lost.
Yeah.
It would be sold and it would be unlocked and it'd be like, let's do price discovery.
Yeah.
Sometimes price discovery is bad. Sometimes it's good that like, we're going to do it. Right. And, 8, 10%, especially for a project that people are excited about, right, can just really distort the price discovery process. So people were like, I like the project, but I can't buy it. That's really frustrating, right? And so I think it pushed people into this mindset of like, where am I going to go? People want to speculate, which they do. They want to speculate. They believe that if they do the work, do the research, this is a marketplace in crypto where it's low information, very high variance, very high volatility. There is a lot of information asymmetry. If you're willing to grind in the trenches, you can find out things that will let you outperform the market. It's a very good market. We can have edge, right? There's a chance there's edge, right? But the VC, tokens, the low flow tokens, there was no edge there. It didn't matter what you knew, it was going to be down only. Launches at 20 bill, comes down to 5. So people were like, this is not a game I can win. I'm out. Okay, cool. Then what do you do? Let's make our own coins.
Yeah.
Right. And so, we saw, and it's not like meme coins were invented 20 minutes ago, right? Yeah. Doge has been around for a long time. There was this organic process of meme coin discovery that would take months or years, right, for a community to form around it organically. And if you saw that community and you believe that community was going to be self-sustaining, buying early would work. And now I'll put my hand up and say, I didn't play those games, right? Like I didn't buy Pepe. I was around, I heard about it, I was like, whatever, right? I never held Doge either, right? It wasn't until later in the cycle, probably late 23, that I was like, I should really check out meme coins, right? I need to figure this out. This meta, I'm not necessarily always the earliest adopter, but once I see something that's like moving, I'm like, okay, I need to look into this. So, I started checking out meme coins. I did an airdrop of a meme coin to the synthetics community, and did this cross-chain stuff, tried Solana, tried Base. Like, I like to get my hands dirty to see how things work.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I get this. Yep. I get why people like it. All the tokens are out there. It's not much liquidity for the market cap, right? So it's very volatile, right?
That's
And so we had something similar, I would say, over the course, and a year is a long time in crypto.
Yeah.
A lot of damage can be done in a year, right? So we had something similar to what happened with ICOs.
Yeah.
Where people went, oh, okay, Mastercoin, Ethereum, there were a ton of early ICOs that people did really well off, and they were like, okay, cool. But the trajectory of ICOs from 2014, 2015, 2016 through to 2017 through into 2018 was very dark. It was early cool capital formation into peak grift, 100% scams. Like by the end of when the DAO report came out and it was clear the regulator was going to crack down and the meta shifted, it was 100% crime.
Yeah.
So we probably compressed that. I still a little, yeah,
We just speed ran that.
we'd really just compress it down to like 18 months, right?
Yeah.
So what happens in a permissionless environment where anyone can turn up and do something? What happens is people go, oh, there's money here. I can take it.
Yeah.
And so we saw the emergence of all kinds of different players, right?
Yeah.
Snipers, bundlers, launchers, but these guys, I think, have taken it to a level of industrialization like the ICOs got to in the end. The end of the ICO cycle, there were ICO mills pumping out ICOs on a weekly, daily basis.
Yeah.
These guys have done the same thing. They're like, I can launch. And the funny thing is, all you need is someone with attention that you can bribe to post a contract address and then say, I was hacked, right? And you can replicate. There's millions of people that fit that.
And that's what happened too. They even have they paid them up front to act like they got hacked to post a contract address.
Exactly.
The person was likely sniping or had a lot of the supply.
Exactly.
And then they were going to dump all over that person's audience.
Yep. And it's bonkers. It's bonkers. So you think like, as the person, okay, fine. The first three, sure, right? Like the first three. And like I was watching this and being like, as someone who pays a lot of attention to OPSEC for reasons, right? We had a period of time where people were 100% getting hacked. They were definitely getting hacked. They were not, because this was not part of this meme coin meta of like launched meme coins. They were getting hacked and they were oftentimes posting weird scams, right? Like,
It was without links though, right? It was linked, right? It was linked to his name, contract address. It was always phishing.
it was phishing laced. It was some scam, linked to drain your wallet, right? Mainly drainers, right? And so it's not unheard of for people, again, for Halleck, right? SIM swaps, like things happened. And so as this started accelerating, I was kind of looking at it and being like, this feels kind of crazy that so many people are getting hacked. Like I'm surprised that, but there's also, and this is the other thing that happened is there's also this kind of thing that you go, well, Elon fired a ton of people. We've seen good stuff happen to Twitter and some bad stuff happen to Twitter, right? Like, moderation, the bot proliferation, all that stuff. So is there a world where like either some insiders at Twitter are like hacking accounts or whatever? Like maybe. Yeah. It turns out that wasn't the explanation. It was just bribes. It's completely. So again, without perfect information, you kind of have to make an assessment of like, what is going on in the market here? And it was just bribery, right? These guys got, they industrialized this down to its most pure form of find a person with high follower count, get the thing ready, get the bundles ready, get the sniper bots ready, then just pay them and bang and bang. And then after like a couple of weeks of this, it was like, no, this is now something else is going on, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously we had Trump.
Yeah.
And then Melania.
Yeah.
And Melania was like, what the?
Melania destroyed everybody. That was everybody. It was like, remember I was there and I bought Trump early. I woke up in Europe. I was buying it like $10, but everybody else was already up like 5x. I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
Thing ripped. And I was like, this could actually end up sparking like
A thing.
like a real thing here. Like this could be like what they say, like Dogecoin runs first and then everything else. I remember like prominent guys that I follow from 2017 were saying like, they were, reflecting it to like when Ripple pumped or something, and it was like, and then it was like Melania. I had this feeling in my gut when it launched, and I was like, just like the floor kind of, I don't know, candle as Trump, and it was like, oh shit, yes.
And this is the thing that I think, from a market structure perspective, is not as obvious from the outside, right? That the total liquidity across all of these coins is still very small relative to the market caps, right? So, you add up the top 20 tokens, ignoring the ones that are already on centralized exchanges, right? Top 20 meme coins not on centralized exchanges, it's a fraction of the market cap. Yes, the liquidity, a couple $1 billion, right? So if you could rug all of them, you pull out a couple of $1 billion, but it looks like 100 billion, right? And so I think that there is some constraint on how much money can be extracted from this, but clearly a lot of money was being extracted. Probably not as much, I would still say, as by the end of ICOs. By the end of ICOs, EOS 4 billion, Telegram 2 billion. Obviously they have evolved and they're still around. That money stayed in the ecosystem. But there were a bunch of things like PumaPay, $150 million.
Yeah.
Gone, evaporated, right? And so that's really $150 million worth of ETH that was just pulled out, right? Which is different to $150 million market cap coin rubbing, right? Because that probably had $1 million worth of liquidity. So this, the history runs, doesn't repeat. And so I think that we got to the point where with no constraints, these guys just kept accelerating.
Yeah.
They had more funds to bribe more. They just ratcheted up and they were like, we are untouchable. We're untouchable. They're giving interviews being like, this is like, fine, this is how business works. It's business, baby. And it's like, first of all, you got your degree from Mantle University. So, there's no business here. This is a crime, my friend.
Yeah.
And so it I think was one of those things where it just kept accelerating, had no constraints, and then it had to reach some crescendo.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the bribery of some kind of a president of a country of 50 million people. And like the stock market's nuking, and it's just like, what have you guys done? Like, you're so fucked.
Yeah.
Right? Like the scale just goes
way at the end. Like we went from like playing a little game to like, whoa,
we busted out of the casino and like the whole city's burned.
don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it sort of speaks to how quickly things can escalate. Like it is so reflexive, and how the incentives can be skewed, to incentivize bad behavior.
Understood.
And there is, a lot of information asymmetry. It's not 100% clear what's going on. So I was sitting there watching this acceleration happen. And in my mind, what I thought was going on is you had multiple groups of people, right, that were competing with each other to do this, right? That was what I sense. What actually I think was happening is as a few winners emerged, they started colluding with one another.
Yeah.
Right. And then there was
Make it bigger.
exactly, to make it bigger and distorting market further.
Yeah.
And what collusion does in a normal marketplace is it increases profits.
Right.
You raise prices.
Yeah.
Increase profit margins.
Yeah.
Increased profit margins in this kind of a game is maximally extracting value.
Maxwell. Yeah.
And so it went from you pulling out $1 million to 10 to 100 to, in the case of
It's not 200 now. Yeah, Felipe. 200. So I'd like to talk about where we go from here, but I think there's an important culture question to answer here. Two meme coin chains okay, so you did a really good job of saying how it went from this kind of left side of BCE all the way to this right side. I think where we go from here is probably somewhere back in the middle, which we can kind of discuss. I've been pushing this idea of like return to fundamentals, but before kind of getting to where we're going and some thoughts there, how much of this situation do you think is a Solana culture problem from the top down? Because it was primarily Solana and base, and people were going at Mert, and I saw him last night at the club, and I was like, dude, like, just don't let these idiots get to you. Like, these guys are blaming things on Tolly, calling him a scammer, and blaming things on you guys. Like, but there is definitely a social layer difference in the way that, for example, I saw a screenshot today of like some 4 unnamed Solana influencers, and they all had the same thing: keep clicking. You got it. Just keep clicking. And it's like this kind of like culture that is very strong there. And base, on the other hand, was the kind of Ethereum meme coin chain, but also ETH itself. So like, what's the dynamic there that you think that's the Solana social layers is that to blame?
See, here's the problem, right? Again, if you know your history, and you look at ICOs, you had people like Ian Bellina, you had Ran Nur, you had all of these guys that were like grifting ICOs. They were getting bribes.
Yeah.
Talk about bribery. They were being bribed with tokens to shill ICOs, right? And so, is that a reflection of the Ethereum culture? No. Grifters are going to grift. They're going to go where the going is good, right? And so meme coins are happening on Solana. That's where the activity is. Why would they go to optimism? No,
I wouldn't go down.
that's not if it's over. No grifters going to optimism to be like, all right, here's what I'm going to play, right? No, you're going to go where the money is, of course, right? They just follow the money. So the fact that Solana had the most activity, and why did it have the most activity? It had a reflexive loop of some activity kicking off. The initial meme coin stuff before even the grifting or whatever it is, the initial run, right? And then it rolled from there into Solana price appreciation. People have more money, they're spending more money, and And, it's the same loop as Ethereum.
But it was also a virality. There was TikToks, there was Twitter.
The whole thing.
It goes out. So easy to onboard Phantom. It's fast. It's cheap. There's no approval messages signing. The UX is good. It had all the recipes for enabling something like
Exactly. And so, I don't look at it as a reflection on Solana, but the issue with Solana, and Ethereum had this issue as well, is Ethereum was the underdog.
Yeah.
Right. And there was this kind of social consensus of don't let the Bitcoin maxis criticize you.
Yeah.
Right. Don't listen to their FUD. Don't listen to their lies. Everything's fine. As an underdog, you're like, the world's trying to, come up to me, like, you're always under attack. And so you're like, your immune system's like ready to go, right? And Totally said this. He's like, yeah, I got triggered by Mitch from Curve, right? Because the guy's just like rewriting history. Now, the victors write history, and the victors in Ethereum were the DeFi founders, right? And the DeFi founders are like, yeah, don't worry about all that stuff, but look at this beautiful thing we built, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, there was crime. There was crime, guys. Like, your history started from crime. Yes, a lot of us, that's the Oshi, they come on, like, there was all kinds of wild shit, right? NFTs, everything, right?
But you're saying because there was victors that they're the ones who get the right history.
Yeah.
Bitcoin had that.
We're like, look at how beautiful thing that we built. We're great made by the years, great DeFi, this is all of that stuff, right? And so there was this shift, right, from Bitcoin maxis, and then no one was listening to them. They went into their holes and they just disappeared, right? And Ethereum became the thing that everyone was talking about, right? Like, of course, we hold Bitcoin, but like the Bitcoin influencers just lost out, right? So they're fucking having weird meat festivals and shit. And
They actually came back to Solana as a means to like.
well, so this is quite interesting, right? The NMV in Miami is my friend, sort of.
Yeah, right.
So you had Ethereum with this, underdog mindset of to defend everything, right? And then it was like, all of a sudden, we're not the underdogs anymore. Now we're the dominant smart contract platform. Now we have the dominant mind share, the most users, the most activity, the most engineers. And look how amazing we are.
Yeah.
Right. And forget about history. Solana has the same effect, right? They went from, post FTX collapse, it's a scam chain. Low float high FTD was invented by Sam on Solana, right? Like, that's where that shit started, right? And so they had this situation where if someone criticizes them, and who's the someone? It's the Ethereum maxis, right? Are like taking pot shots, throwing hand grenades, right? And they're like, we don't need to listen to you. We're going to do our own thing. We're good. We're fine. Don't touch us, right? And that's the rational, emotional response to, someone who's the underdog feels like they need to defend their position, right? And so, of course, Totally was triggered by OG DeFi guy being like,
Yeah, your DeFi sub.
told you were bad, like, and so there's a lot of history that goes into that. But the thing is, Solana is no longer the underdog.
No.
That's the thing that I think the social layer of Solana needs to realize. And the problem with underdogs is it is very easy to manipulate them. Because if you turn up to someone who's been the underdog, who's just been looking for someone to pay attention to and say you're good, people will take advantage of that. And so you have the fucking LA vape cabal and all of these guys turning up being like, we love Solana. Yeah, cool. They don't give a fuck about Solana. They're just trying to grift, right? And so someone who is a deep Solana builder who went through FTX, went through all this pain and suffering, right, is like, oh, these guys like us. Cool. Yeah, like, we're all friends here. And it's like, no, they're extracting value from you, right? So you need to eventually shift out of this mindset of underdog and be like, no, we're the dominant platform. People are going to come and try and steal our shit
Because we're winning. Well, we're valuable. We're with a guy insecure
teenager thing. And it's like,
doesn't realize their self-worth.
Solana has to get past that and be like, bad people, get the fuck out, right? You're a bad guy. We don't want you here. We got enough good people. We don't need anyone. We're not just taking anyone, right? And so the shift in mindset that I think is important that this will cause, I think Solana will get this, right, is we need to, as a Solana person, right, the Solana people need to look at each project, each person, whether they're KOL, there's good KOLs, good influencers, bad influencers. Some people, there's a spectrum, right? Some people are a bit pumpy, some people are a bit grifty, but if they're like still in it for the tech, it's like, okay, cool. But someone who just turns up who's just like got shovel, just like
Yeah.
throwing
Promoting the casino is the problem.
it's not great, right? And so they need to be able to distinguish between those two people. And Ethereum figured this out. Ethereum was like, Ambelina, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You're a scammer.
Yeah.
We don't want you here, right? And I think Solana will do the same thing.
Okay.
It's just part of the evolution of a project, and to go through the ups and downs. And so this, I think, is a very good process for Solana to realize how important it is, and that there's reputational risk. If you invite, you're having a great party, everything's fun, and you invite some crackhead who's,
The cops called, and it's rules to everyone. Rules that forever is done.
exactly. So here you gotta be like, sorry, you can't come in here. You're a bad guy.
Interesting.
Innovating finance, global, institutional, and on-chain. Deep liquidity to drive capital efficiency. Now, maximize yields on institutional-grade liquid staking with METH. Unlock $1 trillion of capital via Bitcoin. All of this secured by Mantle's treasury of billions in stables and ETH capital pools. This entire ecosystem is coordinated by a vast network of seasoned VCs that are aiming to create the next generation of banking and financial technology. This is Mantle.
And what's funny is that Ethereum's gone through this process itself, as you said, with Bitcoin. It was probably more of like a 2018 to 2021 type of process, I think, where
The Maxis were doing victory laps all of 2018.
but after DeFi, even before DeFi somewhere, but after after Ethereum on-chain exploded, it was very clear that like there was a new winner in town.
Yeah.
But so, if Solana can then learn another thing from Ethereum's history, it's that Ethereum is now at a more peculiar spot than being the underdog or being the winner.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, we're the winner, but like there's a lot of really high quality, innovative competition
Exactly.
that is fed up with our social layer.
Mm-hmm.
We can't solve interop. We can't solve our social layer dilemmas. We have a lot of voices in the, we have a lot of chefs in the kitchen, and the competition's rising quickly.
Yeah.
And they're more specialized than us. They want it more.
Yeah.
And they're willing to go to war because they're not complacent like some of us are.
Yeah.
And so, I would even kind of put you in this camp. Like you were like the Ethereum kind of like, you still are one of the faces, I believe, of the chain. And I know that you have kind of agnostic views to this day. I'm sure your portfolio represents that. But from your perspective, like what is going on with the Ethereum social layer? At what stage of that life cycle or
What's the psychology with Ethereum right now?
yeah, it's like I'm allergic to where like if Solana needs to kick out the bad actors, and put a fence up.
Yeah.
Well, where's
Ethereum in its growth phase? I think there's a level of frustration, increasing frustration, because to some extent Ethereum's washed. Right? Like to some extent Ethereum's washed. You got a bunch of people who made too much money, who don't have the fire, don't have the hunger, right? And that doesn't feel good.
no?
You got a boxer who should have retired, and it's like, I'm gonna keep going, right? And the guy keeps getting knocked down. And it's frustrating. You're like, but I was the best. I was the best in the world, right?
And we're at the match, and you're betting on the guy because you love him,
Yeah.
and you keep losing money.
And he was money, and you're like, why do we keep betting on this?
There's other fighters who are doing way better, so I bet on that.
Exactly. And so the good thing is that Ethereum is not an athlete, right? Athletes have a finite life cycle, right? Like you eventually your body breaks down, you got to retire, right? And some people recognize it, they retire early. Some people push it too long, and then it's come for them, and that's it, right? So Ethereum is not a person. It has the ability to course correct and fix some of these things. And startups are hard, right? And Ethereum is still on some level a startup, right? It's a giant, huge startup, but it's still a startup, right? So Ethereum has some kind of existential questions to ask, right? And I think that people are asking them, and some people don't like it. Like you got a Bean who's like, asking them, and he's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna ask the questions, and if you don't like it, get the fuck out, right? And so there is this kind of fight for the soul of Ethereum of like, is it going to be hungry, And this is one of the other interesting things about Ethereum, right? Is like it's easy to sit there when you are worth, $500 billion, right? And be like, we're post money. Money's not a problem.
Yeah.
Middle capitalism, it's all fine. Yeah. Like, let's just let everyone get along, right? That's very easy to do when you made it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, where are the people in the trenches? They're in Solana.
Yeah.
Right. And this happened in the last cycle in BSC, right? People left Ethereum because it was too expensive. And I, as an ETH maxi, was sitting there being like, $200 gas, not that bad. It's only $200, right? That's like, it's a good chain. It's high security, right? The amount of cope was insane, right? And meanwhile, everyone's like, I can't afford $200. That's my net worth, right? I've got to be a C. It's like 0.0002 cents per transaction, right? And so we lost a lot of people because we didn't respond fast enough. I mean, we was a little bit complacent, and we were trying to solve the problem, but a lot of us were trying to solve the problem in a very ideologically pure way, right? Even including up to, Polygon turns up. Yeah, and we're like, sidechain, piece of shit, sidechain, don't do it. Nuts. And it's like the alternative is they're gonna go to BSC.
Yeah.
Right? It's just which is the way worse. So like, would you rather go, okay, not perfect, right? And we did learn this lesson because then we rolled out all of the rollups and all the layer 2 solutions, Optimism, etc. And they were very centralized sequencers, multi-sigs, you could switch them off. And we were all like, okay, this is actually a crisis. We need to solve this. And it's okay for us to progressively decentralize things. But we could have done it earlier with Polygon easily. So I think the interesting thing is that Ethereum is in this position where it's like, we need to get hungry again.
Yeah.
Because we are no longer as relevant as we used to be.
Right.
We used to be the place where everything happened, and now we're not.
Yeah.
A lot of like good stuff's happening. You've got Base.
Base is kind of saving Ethereum from the
Base is doing a really good job. There is definitely some incentive misalignment there for sure, right? Coinbase has different priorities than Ethereum. Right? I think there's a lot of alignment, there's a lot of overlap, but there's different priorities there, right? And anyone who tries to tell you there isn't is fucking like selling you a dream, for right. And so the situation I think is that we have a group of people that's like, come on, let's get hungry, right? And then there's another group of people that's like, yeah, it's fine, right? It's fine. We've got a roadmap. We're gonna get there. And they're a little bit oblivious to the competition. You point out there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And I think that there's still people walking around with the mindset of like, I'm the champion of the world.
Yeah.
No one can beat me.
Yeah, it's kind of pissing me off actually.
And it's like, no, people can beat you now.
Yeah.
People can beat the shit out of you now. Like you like you're not what you used
to be. We support these teams. They publicly on their podcasts and stuff. We get shamed for it.
Right.
Teams, people like ETH people won't want to come on our show.
Right.
If we have Mert on.
Yeah.
Or if we're promoting Celestia.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, nope, this is the problem. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I dropped out of college, started an online business, made like $100,000 or so, paid a bunch of taxes, put all the money into ETH at like $80 or $100. ETH made me.
Yeah.
Right. Like I wouldn't be here without ETH. And, a lot of my assets are on ETH at one still. Right. I'm custodying most of them. So come up with me. Very Coinbase custody. No worries. Yeah. The future of Ethereum was not Coinbase, but fucking if we don't do something about Base, it might be.
It can't be our only hope, right?
And so, but to finish that loop, like, I'm more intrigued right now by innovations that are happening in terms of user experience, tech that aren't necessarily happening deep within Ethereum. Like Ethereum has a lot of, like, in terms of consensus execution, data availability, like there's a lot of innovation outside of Ethereum that is actually like really interesting.
Yeah.
It takes so long for the EF to ship. There's one hard fork a year and there's some soft forks, but it's like, from my perspective, from like the social layer, the trying to create a credibly neutral, objective platform for education and information sharing, it puts us in an interesting spot where we're loyal to Ethereum because that's where the money is, because that's where we originally, Robbie and I kind of started, and that's what kind of made us. But there's a lot of interesting things happening outside of it that are driving a competitive pressure on Ethereum that I don't think it's ever seen. And so I just wanted to share that perspective from like my shoes. I said, no, let's get this from yours.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing running Infinex, right? Is like my job is to go and find all the cool stuff and integrate it.
Correct.
That's it.
My job is to find all the cool stuff and talk good and like not scammy and talk about it and learn about it. And so I can teach others less, right?
Yeah.
And it's just not all happening on Ethereum anymore.
Not in the way that it was.
It was only
It was only happening on Ethereum for a while. And so, what does that mean? It means the market is, maturing and, it would be weird. It would be really bearish if only good stuff happened on Ethereum. If nothing good happened outside of Ethereum, that would be really bearish, right? Yeah, there's people that want that to be the case, and there's probably timelines where that is still the case.
Yeah.
Right. Where Ethereum did different things, path dependency, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, I think that there is an element of just this is progress, right? Like this is progress. This is what's happening. But everyone, it's still a marketplace. Everyone, it's still a marketplace. It's highly competitive. Ethereum cannot be complacent.
Right.
And I think when you see someone like a meme losing his mind on the timeline, it's because of this sense of complacency.
Yeah.
He's still got his hunger.
He's trying to bring a sense of urgency at the social layer, which I think is what we need. Because I think we've accepted this slow pace of shipping or the slow pace of movement in the name of the core ethos of immutability.
Yeah.
And what you said on our first podcast, which I thought was I kind of reshaped and tweeted, and it pisses the Ethereum people off, which is this decentralization lurk.
Yeah.
But that's what always brought me back to Ethereum. It's always what does it. It's this core ethos of immutability, permissionless, the most decentralized, secure smart contract platform. I can trust it. I can put my assets on it. Anybody can use it. It has all the properties that you want in a smart contract platform. But we accepted this lack of the complacency is almost like not even acknowledging the competition.
Yes.
But now it's so obvious. The competition looks crazy. It looks bad. It
Looks crazy. You can't be like, oh, we don't have to worry about Solana.
Yeah.
Right. Like just to dismiss something out of hand. Correct. But okay, let's ignore Solana for a second. What about Hyperliquid?
Yeah.
Right. Hyperliquid is like, Solana's like, let's add some centralization, see what happens. And Hyperliquid is like, hold on, being very apps. You thought you'd see a validator set? I'm going to validate a set for you. So there is this reality where users just want utility.
Yep.
Users want utility. And for a period of time, people were ideologically aligned. Builders were ideologically aligned with Ethereum. Right? And I think most of those people are still in Ethereum, the ones who are ideologically aligned. And therefore, most of the good building happened on Ethereum. The vast majority.
Well, because those people care about the crypto ethers. They care about very importantly. I don't want us to come off as like Kain and Andy ragging on Ethereum.
No. I love Ethereum.
Oh yeah, same. And that ethos is so important.
Yeah.
It's like I don't condone 3 validators set on Hyperliquid.
Sure.
But I can't just push it off and say it's
I'll pretend it's really opening. Now, you could if no one was using it.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are using it, right?
Yeah.
But this is also true of centralized exchanges. And this is my job. My job at the moment is acknowledging and even people, I say this and people are like, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about it like that. The last 15 years of crypto history, right? And we only had 2 years where this wasn't the case, has been dominated by centralized exchanges. Since the rise of Mt. Gox, it has been centralized exchange land. We've been doing crypto transactions inside someone's database. That's what's been happening. Okay. That's not a sustainable equilibrium. And yet 15 years later, here we are, right? But we finally got the tech now to transition out of that period, to transition into a new era where we do everything on chain. To your point, Phantom's got better UI. Like a lot of stuff's gotten better, but there are things that are still challenging. And if people are willing to make compromises on decentralization, censorship resistant, etc., they're going to give a better user experience. That's Binance. Yeah, Binance makes all of those compromises, and it's huge because it is the best experience. It's the best cross-chain tech that we have, right? It's a harsh trade-off because you got to hand all your assets to a guy, right? But once you do, everything else is great. You click buttons, things happen. You get all the assets, like under your ledger. No, it's magic, right? And you could sit there and say, but you shouldn't, right? But you can say that people shouldn't, but they will. They will because they want utility. So if you're going to take down centralized exchanges, if you're going to get to a point where you can highlight the best tech, you need the best UX. And that's what we're trying to do. We are trying, and it's one of the things that I think will level the playing field, right? Because all of a sudden, if you have the best execution or the best liquidity or the best liquidation engine in the best lending market, we're going to make all of that available
to
everybody, right? And now it's actually about the infra for infra's sake, not about infra with weird branding and tokens.
Ideology and tribalism as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so, now, okay, Camino and Ave can sit there fighting on the ton like, oh, well, it's hilarious. I'm here for it. Or this that is amazing. But one of them is better. One of them is better than the other, right? And if you put both of them into a single aggregated interface, it abstracts which chain they're on, which assets, all of that stuff, right? And you say, give me a quote to borrow against USDC. Someone's going to give you a quote. One's going to be better than the other. All of a sudden, the tribalism evaporates, right? Because the person at that user layer does not care at all what chain is called the best, is the best execution, right? And so what we have been living in is a database, right, that does not touch the chains. It pulls the tokens out and lets you do stuff inside the database, but the tokens are disconnected from the on-chain reality, right? We are building a thing that is connected to the on-chain reality. So if you have better depth, if you have better execution, you will win.
You'll be rewarded.
That's it.
Especially the distribution platform for
exactly. And which is what we need. It levels the playing field for everybody. It's not now who is the best tweeter. No, is going to get the most liquidity, right? Or who's the craziest on the timeline. It's like who actually has the best execution.
Infinex is in many ways is great for Ethereum in terms of protocols with depth, order books with depth. In many ways, scary for Ethereum in terms of if you want low fees or if you want to buy different tokens, like there, oftentimes I'd say in 8 to 9 out of 10 prior to 2023, new users were onto Ethereum.
Yes.
Now it's like with Infinex, with other,
or at least you had to be on mainnet, right? Like, I did like there first. Everything, like NFTs were there. You couldn't help be on there, right?
And that's not the case. But I mean, I think we exist in this world right now of a chain-centered view. I think that eradicates quickly into more of an application-centered view. And I think you can even go all the way to like intent-centered view and then take it all the way to like, okay, I'm just going to type in my natural language model to then an AI to go for X and to do this, and we can do it. Anyway, so we like quickly speed ran this whole chain abstraction intense narrative idea to like, I'm not even sure if I'm ever going to interact with the chain anymore. I think I'm going to talk to my agent or go on Infinex and just click a couple buttons and
that's it. And you don't care, right? And I was talking to someone who runs a centralized exchange while I was here this week, right? And they were like, Infinex sounds kind of bad for like you. It feels like a bit of a psyop, right? And I was like, well, here's the interesting thing, right? Infinex is not a trading venue, right? We do not make markets. So if you have good liquidity and you have solvers connected to the liquidity on your exchange, we'll take that too. We just want the best liquidity. I don't care if it's in a centralized exchange, because guess what? All of the people that are sitting in that centralized exchange subject to a custodial system, right, are creating a market, but a solver is just reaching in and pulling liquidity out of there. The person sitting on Infinex doesn't care about the custodial nature of that. It's just execution, right? So I'm like, listen, if you got good liquidity, you're going to do well. If you don't, you're not, right? Like you can't hide from it. So I think that we're moving to a world where we abstract away all of the kind of trappings of like, I'm the best protocol. Look at my, I have to throw the best parties. I do all this stuff, right? It's like, you're the best protocol because you have the best bill or not. Or you have the lowest interest rate or not.
And I think this is how I feel about Ethereum right now, about Solana, about the space. Is just like we should just be prioritizing the quality tech, the innovation over like. I get the decentralization arguments, I really do, and I think they're important. But like, the market is telling us otherwise, and we'd be foolish to not look at the objective reality as it is and create a plan or a system that adheres to the objective reality that we live in now. Because if we want to try and make everybody adhere to our version of the world, then we're going to be stuck in a very rough situation when the others effectively are doing things not our way.
Like, yeah, it's already been proven out. Yeah, it's already been proven out, right? Like people, traders, especially perps traders, they just care about execution.
Yeah, that is so. Yeah, so Hyperliquid feels like freaking Binance anyway.
It does. It does. Like, it's a similar stack is why, right? Like, it's a similar stack. They've done a really good job of vertically integrating everything, right? So, it's good execution and a club is still the winner for now, right?
This will be very interesting on the big ETH, right? Some results to get.
We've got that. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, now you can do a club on Monad, right? Okay. Let's see how that goes. That's gonna be fun. We're gonna have the club wars on 5 fast chains, right? So it's a rapidly evolving landscape. It's very competitive. I think competition is good.
Yep.
Having one platform monopolize attention and demand is not good, right? We should be fostering highly competitive markets, and I think that we are. And I think that the launch of a bunch of new chains, Monad, Mega ETH, Fogo, with differing approaches, and even Unichain, right? Like let's really get some deep DeFi liquidity going on there, right? The launch of all these different chains, while it fragments things, I think will create a very direct competition, which is super bullish for the space.
So the lower barrier to entry to launching tokens and chains is going to accelerate the bifurcation of quality builders, quality teams, good innovation with mid and bad teams, and the market will show us that quicker than if you still had to raise 20 million to launch a chain.
Exactly.
Because in that world, it's like I'm a huge believer in the acceleration, the pace of experimentation.
For sure. Lowest barriers to entry are better. Yeah. But the thing, I say this all the time, lowers the barrier to entry, enables grifting though too. It enables grifting. You will have crime chains. Like people will say, Solana is a crime chain. It's the activity chain right now. So that's, of course, crime's going to happen on the place where there's most activity. But someone will launch a crime chain that is designed just for crime. And they can because it's low barriers to entry. It costs $50 to launch a chain now. And it's in fact more than one probably, right, will happen. But at the end of the day, if you don't have people extracting value, then it means that there's no values to be created, right? So it's just cost of the world.
So let's go full loop here, and then we'll close out. We'll just have a couple minutes. We start kind of talking about this seesaw, this pendulum, where on the left we had the VC coins, went all the way to memes. We talked about how we speed ran some similarities ICOs, how the culture is at play here. So where do we go from here? Are we meeting back in the middle towards, I've been saying return to fundamentals, but I'm kind of coping because I'm like, I hope that because when I first got in, I was like, I believe that if I do research, I can find a good project. Like I found synthetics and I was like, okay, look, this is the beginning of a massive bubble. Yeah. Right. But I was like, okay, this is a new primitive. It's very cool. On-chain is awesome. I was using Aave. I was like, I'm early to all this. I did the research. I learned about it. I learned how to do it. I can now make money. I can now
grab an edge. You have an edge, yeah.
And we talked about how that kind of has just gone away because it's just been make the coin, let's capture the trend to it on the VC coins.
Exactly.
So I'm kind of coping when I'm like, please return to fundamentals because I'm quite technical now. I think I have a good understanding of what is good in the market, what is not, what may win, where the space is heading. I have my own thesis for where we're going.
Sure.
So I can allocate accordingly. But that thesis is determined on kind of these fundamental coins, this research, projects, not memes.
If the fact, memes is a different game.
Yeah,
it's just
so then am I coping? Are we returning to fundamentals, or are we going to go in the middle, or are these worlds going to coexist? Where do we go from here? Maybe 6, 12, 18 months.
I think I started talking about cycles within cycles, right? And a lot of people, even in 2023, were asking how long can this meme coin cycle last, right? And my view is cycles and irrationality can last longer than you expect, right? But we've seen multiple different cycles within cycles over the last 4 years, from DeFi 2.0, NFTs, meme coins, ICOs, all of that stuff. And I think that there is a momentum to these things. I'm not ready to call the top on meme coins yet, but I do think that there is a momentum to it, and that people will rotate out to a new game, and they will feel like they've got an edge in that game, if there is a new game to be played. But it's not 100% clear what that new game should be, or if it's a rotation back to an old game. People rotate back to NFTs or something, right? We even had AI agents for months, right? So that was the meta. It was like a combination of meme coins and AI and weird stuff, right? So I'm not one to predict what people will do next, but I think that there is a decent chance that this could mark the top of attention for meme coins, and that there will be a sort of slow drift down from here. What comes next? Don't know.
Me either. But that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Is it going to be interesting? It's always
It's gonna be interesting.
and there's always an edge in like paying attention.
Exactly. Yeah, always like something there. Whatever it is, I promise you this. Whatever it is already happening. Whatever the next thing, it's like already, like it was 3-6 months ago and no one's paying attention to it. There'll be something there. And yeah, it's a question of finding early.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much.
Amazing. Thanks for having me.